How are you? Thank you for joining us. My name is Val O'Hare, and missed the joke. My name is Val O'Hare, and I'm happy to see all of you here tonight. So we really appreciate your time, and I'd like to introduce you to Irina Wolfe. Irina is the incredible wordsmith that writes Let's Talk Bureau. And so she's amazing. And so we are kind of partners in crime here. We work full time, but we do this kind of on the side because we are passionate about trying to offer some kind of a venue or conversation for the community. And but Irina has done an incredible job with to get the word out. And when we started this, she just handed me a microphone and she said, "Here, you're now a moderator." I said, "All right." So every time I do it, I get a little bit better at it. But before we get going, may I just ask how many of you are coming here for the first time to Let's Talk Bureau meeting? Well, thank you so much for joining us. So for those of you who didn't raise your hand, you may have remembered this from last time, but I do want to tell everyone just a little bit about this theater. So first of all, this is called the Wax Slack Stage. So when you do the casino night or comedy night, it's actually held here. And the walls behind you are faux, they collapse, so it opens up, and so sometimes you get a little disoriented. And the big stage is over this way, okay? So now, you're sitting in Florida's largest nonprofit producing theater. And it's in its 51st year of business, and for those of you who may have had a theater bug in your previous life, you probably know that for a nonprofit small town theater to still be around after 50 years is an absolutely extraordinary feat, and statistically a very small number in the United States. So now this organization is trying to figure out how to still be here the next 50 years. And since we're all about community engagement and impact on our community, I want to share with you the impact that this theater has. It employs about 100 people. And also, as shows are produced, they bring in about 200 artists. Most of them are hired out of New York City. The theater makes all of its own props and costumes. So if you're debating whether or not to go see Singing in the Rain, you gotta go. It's fabulous, and so are the costumes. It's a very happy, colorful play, or show I should say. The theater also uses 500 volunteers. So a lot of the ushers you see here, these gentlemen and ladies simply volunteer their time. And so the theater runs roughly on a $12 million budget. So that means $12 million are spent back in the community. The big chunk of that, of course, is wages and benefits. And most of the workers or employees of the theater also live here in Indian River County. The theater also supports over 100 local organizations because they share many times free tickets and venues. They do many children's programs. They work with the Gifford Youth Organization. So they do lots of other things that ordinarily you wouldn't associate a theater with necessarily. And so of the $12 million that are kind of the benefit here locally to the county, about 2.4 million are wages. So that's a little bit about this theater, and we're extraordinarily grateful that they let us use this space. And because John Moses, the CEO of the theater, and Lori, the general manager, that's awesome to help us every night, or when we do this, I should say, they are all in on engaging the community. And John said, in the ideal world, he would like the theater to be the living room of our community. And so collectively, that's their goal, and hence this space is made available to us. Not all the tables are obviously here. Usually it's full of tables, but because the show is going on, they need to be in the lobby if you're wondering what happened to your table for your drink. The good news is that the bar will close at 6:30, Laura?
No, the bar's open until intermission of Singing in the Rain.
Okay, so you can drink until you leave. So that would kind of be your contribution for the theater, right? They make obviously a little bit of money off the bar. So as you may, I assume you've read the emails that Irina has sent out, and so you know that our guest speaker is no longer a guest speaker, and the city withdrew Peter Polk's participation tonight. And so Irina decided to call this Let's Talk Vera Uncensored. And because she has a 15,000 humans read her website, and so hence we thought this would be a great way for you to share what your thoughts are about Three Corners, because the developers subscribe, and we'd like to videotape this tonight. So hence, they can basically see your message and what you may like about it, what you may not. They may have some really good ideas that they will take with them until they cross the finish line, which is the end of April, by the way. But there won't be any other really public forums where the public can articulate either their pros or cons or ask questions. So hence we thought this is a terrific way for you to...
Until the final meeting.
Until the final meeting.
End of April. It will
Yes, there's one final meeting, the end of April, and Irina put out kind of a timeline. So the week of April 22nd is when they will choose one of the two developers, and that is going to be a public meeting, but I think you'll just have a few minutes to make a public statement, and then they'll disclose who they've picked. So hence, we hope you feel comfortable sharing your thoughts and not mind being videotaped necessarily, and share your feedback to the developers and obviously the city as well. And so I know you want to share some comments regarding Peter,
et
etc.
Peter Polk's
Yeah, why don't you-
sent to us.
As you know, we worked with the city to have Peter Polk come and answer some questions you might have, but given the fact that this is an ongoing process, they decided out of an abundance of caution not to do anything that could compromise the process. As you all know, that process last time got bungled, and so we wouldn't want to do anything, the city doesn't want to do anything, but what we did want to do was make sure that you all have an opportunity to share your concerns, amplify your questions, because as Bearable just mentioned, as the process proceeds, the developers do subscribe to our emails, they do read them. Your thoughts, questions will be top of mind for them when they're talking to the selection committee and during their interviews with the city council members. So I'm just going to read Peter's note very quickly. Thank you for your invitation to participate in your Let's Talk Vera event on February 26th, focusing on the Three Corners project. As I indicated in our telephone conversation, the city's position is that with the developer selection process still in active phase, city representatives should not participate in a public forum on the project. Your work in hosting events such as this one is much appreciated and, in my opinion, an important part of public dialogue. However, the timing of this event is such that it's best for the city representatives to refrain from being a part of it. I very much look forward to the opportunity of joining you to discuss the project once the city selection process is complete. And once that city selection process is complete, we will invite the chosen developer to meet you all here again in May. So in April, March 10, we're going to have Jeff Pickering here for Let's Talk Vera about philanthropy and its contribution to the community. And then on April 16, I believe it is, we're going to have the head of Cleveland Clinic to talk Let's Talk Healthcare. So I'll turn it back to Bearable in a moment, but first I just want to say thank you. Bearable obviously underwrites this and makes it possible for everyone, so a round of applause for Bearable, please. And I just we never expected this to become so popular. So we've got some other sponsors who have come on board too, partners I should say. Christine Hughes here, who is with Dale Sorensen. She is consistently ranked one of the highest producers, and I think you just received the you're number 3 this month in all the Barrier Island sales for Dale Sorensen. And Morgan Reynolds, also from Beyond the Trend Marketing, a true standout in our community for innovative and creative solutions that drive results. Your Morgan's influence is on so many things throughout this community, including the Vero Beach Film Festival and many more. And Shanafe, who's not here, Boulevard Tennis, he's just started hosting quarterly events that are more focused on padel. Does anyone know what padel is? It's sort of like a pickleball squash combination. So they have the padel grill over at the Boulevard. Go there, you can sit courtside and watch padel. Apparently it's the biggest thing. It's gonna be bigger than pickleball, I'm told. And then Joey and Kimmy's seafood market and restaurant. Kimmy's not here tonight. She's probably serving someone a private dinner somewhere. But obviously Joey and Kimmy's is legendary for being the best seafood market on the Treasure Coast. Go for lunch, try the lobster bisque. Joy and Kimmy will make you feel like family. So we're really grateful to have you with us. Thank you for making this possible. Back to Grandma.
Do you want to tell them about how it got all going, the timeline of since 2019? I thought it
Is anybody, that's a long
was a
timeline.
long timeline.
But is there anyone interested in a recap of the timeline from 2019 to present? No. Okay, let's get started.
Okay.
But she knows the timeline, it started 2019. So, I thought I'd share with you what some of the results were from the survey that Irina gave. And then I'm hoping somebody here just needs to start, and I've got a portable microphone, obviously. So last time I just walked it around, and I think it's on. No, not yet. Here we go. Yeah.
John?
That's my least favorite part about public speaking. It's the microphone. But we know it works. This nice new lady up there is in charge. Hello. There we go. I think it's on now.
It's on.
It's on. Okay, great. Speak
Not working yet.
No,
a little louder.
they
Yeah.
have the stage open, they have screens there, they show pictures, they show
Not working.
diagrams, and it's much
And it's
more
on.
engaging. This is
All right,
what
so
it's
then maybe,
Oh, wait.
It's exciting.
Try it again. Yeah.
Testing.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, all right.
Because we're not
So,
gonna get any of that.
Testing.
And we'll talk a little louder. There you go. That's what we'll do. So in other words, I'm happy to walk around with the microphone like I did last time, and so you don't have to get up and come up here and ask the question. And then Jonathan will tell us if it works. So you just need to speak loudly so the video. Here you go. So we'll just thank you. Speak up, and so we can go ahead and videotape your questions.
Yeah, one of the things that is important is that we do distribute this to our list, and they appreciate clean audio, so please refrain from asking questions without a mic in your hand.
Right. So that's the only rule tonight. Drink, have another sandwich. My girlfriend makes these, and I could not possibly take them all home. They usually land in my office, and then it's scarf in a heartbeat. So please help yourself at the end. So some of the highlights of the survey. The question: how familiar are you with the history of Three Corners Project? 42% said somewhat familiar. 22% extremely familiar. 32% very familiar. But nevertheless, 42% is a big number that just said, I'm just somewhat familiar. And we also asked whether or not you follow or participate in DPZ process starting back in 2019. And 44% of you said yes, so that's a great number. And how many of you have been keeping up with news stories? The answer was 94%. And what's nice for Irina is that the number one source of information appears now to be the Let's Talk Vero website versus 32963 and TC Palm. So the stats were, I think, Let's Talk Vero is 38%, and 32963 was 30%, and TC Palm 8%. still get
The press journal.
I still get the press journal delivered to my driveway every morning. I feel like I need to help keep paper going. But anyway, so I still get the press journal every morning in my driveway. And anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. Now, is it important to you that the chosen developer adheres to the DPC design plan embraced by the community and adopted by City Council? And 40% of the folks that took the survey said yes. 32% said no, and 22% said we're really not quite sure. And the other interesting statistic is that 59% of the individuals that answer the survey are city residents. So how many of you are city residents? Yay! Pardon me? And county would, I assume, would be the rest, right? County residents, right? Yeah, I don't know who drew the lines, they don't really make any sense to me. I'm kind of a linear person, and lots of squigglies, and I'm not quite sure who decided to draw up the lines. So, ultimate survey, obviously certain things, quote unquote, trend. And here are the highlights of trending, and maybe some of you may have some comments about that to the prospective developer. Parking and traffic. Funding. Will taxpayers bear any burden? Number 3, has a contamination study been done? Because obviously you know that it's a power plant, right? And the state of Florida has really strict laws about contamination in the ground. So that's a question mark, right? Whether or not this place needs to be quote unquote cleaned. Don't know, question mark. Integrity of the process. And then the 5th one was keep the stacks or lose the stacks, i.e. from Big Blue. So that might be another fun thing for you to share with the developer, because the 2 developers that are still in the hunt, their proposal, both of them wish to keep it and have. So that's already nice feedback for them. So who would like to, there's always one that has to be brave enough to go first. All right, Barbara.
Very easy. So we went through this process last year, and I thought it was quite interesting. Whether I knew somebody or didn't, everybody was talking about the 3 Corners project. Who they wanted, what they liked, what they disliked. On this go-around, I hear nobody talking about it at all, ever. I think that's sort of interesting. That's my observation.
Okay.
Make it easy. So I live in the neighborhood, and my concern is about public access. I know that this is all focused on business, and business rule is maximize profit, but government rule is public good. So having public access and activities, I think is very important, not to get lost in the profit. It has to make a profit, I don't have a problem with that, but also has to be open to people as part of the community and not a members only exclusive luxury club.
I'm pretty sure that both developers, I have not read the proposals, and I can't speak to them, the technicalities. You'll hear more as people start, interviewing and presenting them, their public meetings. But my understanding is both of them have really focused on public access because that's an important issue for the community. And it was certainly how Andres wanted to sign them.
Who else would like to ask a question or make a comment? I'm behind you.
This has to do with
Well, it's loud, I know.
3 Corners, but I'm concerned about how long it'll take for the waste treatment plant to move away.
Oh.
Is that supposed to happen first?
That's in process.
That's in process now,
Yay.
in preparation for.
It is so spooky, just gonna let it right out.
Did you want to ask a question?
Yes, that is in the process.
This is gonna turn into a 4 Corners project.
And I can answer to that question, it is four corners, but I think the fourth corner, I can't remember, who knows what the use of the fourth corner is? It's municipal use currently, right? Does anyone remember? Do you know what the fourth corner is?
Only 3 corners.
The fourth corner, the city owns that, it's up for grabs if someone wants to buy it, it's for sale. And they're trying to incorporate that into whatever they develop on those 2 corners. Right now, the part that's in play is the power plant land.
So is there going to be a large storage building put up there, like a historic building?
Doubtful, I think they've learned from the mistakes, I don't think so, I think that was every maximized.
That's what's gonna be coming though. One more storage building.
Has anyone had a chance to really familiarize themselves with the proposals? And there were a couple of people who took the survey who said they read the proposals cover from front to cover, front to end. Do any of you feel really well versed in the proposals? I'd love to hear from those people if they're here. No? Okay, so.
Just wondering, you said the city
I'm
was
not gonna bother.
interested in having it for
I
the
just wanna see
community,
the
but are they
blueprints.
putting
See the
any
drawings.
hard and fast limits to the developers, that a certain percentage of the land or a certain percentage of the space is gonna be for the community, or they're just gonna sort of wing it?
I don't think there are any hard and fast rules. I know that both developers have put stuff in. We'd have to look at the proposals. Again, I have not. You should look at some of the media that has been reported on so far in a couple of different places. We go Let's Talk Bureau and look in that news section. You'll see some of those, but you're going to see more of what that is as the proposals are unveiled. Right now this is the very first iteration. We'll have that meeting on March 4th. You'll see more, and then the developers will, the selection committee will really go through the pros and cons of each proposal, and that will be open to the public on March 4th. That's when you'll really start to see people dive deep into what the components are.
Okay, so I have a question. Even though I didn't read the proposals and there's more proposals coming, we have 3 corners and there's going to be, hopefully they're talking about mixed use of all different types of retail, entertainment and such. But what about parking? And what about people moving safely about across the street? Would there be like a sky bridge, a walk bridge?
That's been discussed, but that will be, probably Peter Poe could answer that question if you're here with us, because, I know how Andres Lonnie feels about those bridges that go up and over and down. People don't use them, they risk traffic and get killed before they use them, and it happens in Miami all the time. But, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, Jonathan, you can speak to that. In the University of Miami, they have one, right? And the students still dart across and take their lives.
No, they used it.
They do use it now?
Uh-huh.
That's good. Andres?
Or maybe they'll do an underground like they do at Disney.
Yeah.
Did you know Disney has an underground, under A1A, right?
That's a nice
Disney
idea.
Resort. So maybe we'll put that down as an idea. Because we feel kind of safer going through a tunnel than over a bridge, it sounds like. A couple other people here raised their hands. Did you have a question?
Planning at this stage is almost like a wish list. And well, there's a couple of big hotels mentioned. I wonder, has any of the major hotel chains or anybody in that arena expressed great interest about being here?
So, in one of Irina's emails were 2 links, one to each deck of the proposed developer. So, if you click on that link and it opens up the decks, for one of the developers, towards the back, they listed all their prospective partners, whether they would be restaurateurs or hotels, etc. And so that would be kind of your best source, at least between now and when they actually vote on either one of these two developers, to see what prospective partnerships they would, quote unquote, bring to the table, because obviously that's a big part of it, right? And I'm sure you all know the city owns the land. Just so you know, it's 33 acres. It's a really big piece of land. If you've never been on it, it's kind of interesting. Or if you go out on a boat and go in off the river, and when I did this with my kids one afternoon, and it's absolutely massive. I didn't appreciate how big it is, and we drive over the bridge every day, and you just don't have like a sense of big. It's huge, and so maybe that's what we should do one time, with two like pontoon boat rides to come in on the back end. And this bay that's there, where boats can then eventually park, it looks deceivingly small when you just drive over the bridge, but it's everything is just oversized. So the land obviously has a lot of potential, and there's plenty of space, I think, for lots of creative things to happen. But to your point, I think one developer wants to bring in one hotel, another wants to bring maybe two to have different price points, and so hence that's going to be all part of the final mix. We thought about printing it out, but I just didn't have enough color print in my printer, to be honest. So.
We all know this is going to take years and years for it to come to full fruition, but I'm wondering, since the Youth Sailing Club is already using part of that land, is any part of the land available, or can it be opened right now to public use?
I think we have asked for that already, because there has been delay and there are a lot of desire for immediate access. My recollection is it's an insurance issue, safety, that sort of thing. Maybe once the developer is chosen, we could incrementally open parts up. I'm not sure. That's all to be determined.
That's a good question. We should then put that on our list for them to maybe address when they address everyone, I guess, and I assume the end of April, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure incremental access would be really appreciated.
Here we go. Hello, how are you? I want to get my steps in.
Thank you. Before I talk much, does anyone know if they asked the developers for financial proposals in this round?
What was the question?
Did they ask developers for financial proposals in this round? How they're actually going to pay for what they're proposing? That was not part of the last proposal, as I understand it.
I do know that there are some very, very strong financial controls in place, and they're different from the last round, and that PFM is the auditing company that is going to drill deeply down into the financials and the capabilities, because the last time around it was apples to oranges instead of apples to apples. So it's really, they've really put some guardrails on the processes to tighten all of those sort of nuances up. So you're going to see that. I think you'll probably start to see that on March 4th when the selection committee starts talking about the pros and the cons of each proposal. I would hope that PFM has started to contribute their financial insights, and then also Stantec will do the design and execution feasibility insights.
And I'm just hoping if this is going public, that the developers will actually tell everyone how they plan to finance these things, what bonds, what instruments, what banks. In my experience with this type of thing, as an architect, generally the financial side is just as important. And you generally have to name your partners, banks, financial institutions, Wall Street, especially for a project of this size. It's easy to just put pretty pictures out there and get everyone excited, but there's got to be some real meat on the bone, to figure out how they're going to afford this. And so I hope this is part of this process. And those of you who participate should be watching closely, because it's a big project for this community and that site, so it's really important how they're gonna do it.
Thank you.
Irina, this gentleman right now. Thank you.
That's a very good point.
Money.
I have to completely agree with the last speaker about the financial ability of the winner of the bid to actually complete the project. I've seen too many projects fall because of an inability to keep the financing that they promised donors that they would have. But more importantly, I'm concerned about whether or not the city has properly evaluated the value of this property before they enter into any agreement with any developer. The value of 33 acres of land here in Vero Beach is almost impossible to determine. What we're giving to these developers has to have a value in order for us to determine whether our return on investment is near what it should be. Because if this is becoming a giveaway, sort of like what happened with the Dodgers, then we're going to regret this 10 years from now.
Do we know whether the financial and the engineering consultant reports have to be made available on the same day, on March 4th?
I don't know that.
I
would assume if they're starting to make evaluations and considerations, I don't know. I have not been able to get an answer on that.
Do you know, Bob?
I can't.
Okay, sorry. It would also be, I mean, the two proposals look quite different in terms of density. Might be interesting if people have a view as to how they view one compared to the other. Maybe, yeah. What do you think? If you look at the two proposals, the density is quite different. And maybe some of you have looked and have a view as to what you prefer, what your comments are.
So there are two proposals. You've all had a chance to look at the pictures probably, and obviously there's much more involved than just the aesthetics. So what Barbara is asking is, does anyone here have one favor over another just on the aesthetics alone, instead of in terms of the programming that they've seen in the proposals?
Just no pickleball, please.
What was it?
No pickleball.
Okay, no pickleball.
No pickleball.
No storage.
Since the city owns it, do we get paid back? Is it gonna be leased, or is it going to be any kind of payback to the community?
Yeah, it's gonna be leased. I can't speak to the details of those leases. Those still have to be worked out, but yeah, it'll be leased.
Can you just tell us the major differences between the two proposals?
Honestly, I cannot speak to the major differences to the two proposals, partly because I didn't read them, because I didn't want to have an opinion, because we really want to remain neutral at Let's Talk Vero. So we don't want to push one plan over another, but we do want all of you who have input to have the ability to share that. You know, one of the things we mentioned is, public input is really important to us and community engagement, and there won't be any time for public comment until the final vote. So this is just an opportunity for you to be heard if you have concerns, questions, and the council members and the ranking committee can hear it, and the developers too, because they're on our distribution list. So yeah.
Real quick, I'd be interested in seeing the projected taxable amounts for both properties and how they're gonna impact the city itself long term. And if the water rises, are we gonna be on the hook for rebuilding this property, if they're leasing it from us, similar to what we have to do to the beach all the time, as far as functioning?
I can't speak to that, but it's a good thing to put on the radar.
I'm sure you've brought it up before, but I missed the beginning. The meeting on March 4th, where is it going to be held? city council?
Chambers.
Okay.
And here's,
Right here is the schedule of the meeting, so you can see. Oh, that's my fault. I just assume everybody knows it's chambers, but it's city council chambers.
In the first proposal, with ClearPath, they had the sewage plant side left as green space, with the sailing, club, fishing pier, and a possible dog park, and then an open space. Is that still kind of in the plan, or are we gonna have big development on both sides of the bridge?
Again, I have not really familiarized myself with the plans. Does anybody know the answer to that question? No.
I'll take a stab at it, Irina. When, in 2019, when this all started, the vision for what now is the sewage plant was to keep that big white cylindrical structure. And they thought it might be fun to display either art on it or stream lights or use it as a backdrop for something artistic. And the original conversation was to maybe put a stage in front of that cylindrical building. And then maybe, and you know, obviously clean it out, hollow it out, maybe cut some holes in it, and then use it maybe for art display, etc. And there was at one time a conversation to do some clamping along the water line, right? Because it's just thick mangrove from actually, quote unquote, the beginning of the bridge all the way into the lagoon. If you go there by boat, it's just all thick mangrove. So one idea was clamping, you know, like, what, how do you pronounce it? Glamorous. Clamping. Obviously, I'm not a candidate for this. I like a bed and a pillow, so I'm gonna pass that opportunity. But my kids thought it was a great idea. So that sewage portion, the sewage, I'm gonna call it the sewage side, but you know what I mean. So that was kind of the vision was more to be more geared more towards entertainment, open fields. At least that's what I remember. You look like you're thinking. You remember kind of, isn't that kind of pretty much how it was penciled out? Right.
That's how it was penciled out, but the only piece that's in play is the power. That's how it's penciled out, but the only piece of land that's in play right now that the voters voted for is where the power plant sits. And the other piece right now, you have used sailing, they have a lease on the front part. So it's to be determined what's gonna happen there in the future. But just remember, there's only one piece that the voter voted on for this to happen, is that's where the power plant sits.
So then presumably when the waste sewage plant has been moved, then you could get a better visual, right, in terms of the space, how it looks, and then it would be, I'm sure they'll start all over again, right, to get out of the ground of developers. So all you have to do is live, and you'll see the end of the story.
How do the people get to the sailing club now if there's no public access? How do they get to it if it's on the river? Through the sewage side?
Well, there is an entrance.
There is,
I think it's
it's all Indian River. Yeah.
off Indian River Boulevard, and there's a little keypad that you have to put in a
There's
combination.
a sign.
I have a question for, I don't mean to put you on the spot, Christine, but as a realtor, what do you think the effects of 3/4 will have on real estate? If you're comfortable, if you don't want to.
I'm totally comfortable. I think it's a huge positive. Oh, the mic.
I think it's honestly a huge positive to our community if it's done correctly. Like we all have said and voiced our opinions here, if it's done correctly, I think it will be beneficial to everyone, locals and people from out of town, and bring more income to our community, more tax base, and you know, whoever is chosen, hopefully it's exactly what we need in this community. And people are starving for more things to do, and maybe more restaurants and places to go and parks and beautification. So we just have to be careful about how it's done and choose the right person, honestly, because growth is going to happen and we all want it to come in a positive way. And I do believe that this will happen in a positive way, as long as we're all involved, like you people all here came out tonight. I'm so happy that you did, considering our speaker sort of had to bow down. I was concerned about that, but I'm thrilled because Irene does a great job in battle and everybody here. So thank you to you. Appreciate that.
You had a question about the value of the fourth corner.
Yes, please,
If anybody knew that, if the city knew what it was worth.
go for it.
Does anybody know that?
Do you?
No, Christine asked that, and I didn't know she did. Does Vero do?
What I'd rather ask is, the real estate broker has an idea of what an acre of waterfront property costs in the city.
That's a dicey question.
It's a what?
It's a dicey question.
That's a dicey question, because we're not talking about just, you know, to put me on the spot, we're not talking about just 1 acre of riverfront, we're talking about a massive amount that's going to be together. So I'm not trying to like put you off on that, but I really don't want to answer that question if everyone doesn't mind.
I mean, an early appraisal had it appraised at only $17 million.
Sure. Buy one house in Vero for that.
That's it. So,
Here's the question though, in appraisal, there's always a question before the appraisal is done. Is it done for a death? Is it done for refinancing? Is it done for et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? So if we are appraising a property for a certain thing, that's a different story. As we all know, we're all intelligent people in this room.
You know what I thought of, and might be fun for you to know, when you asked about, long term, how this is going to, because it's going to happen, right? By the end of April, somebody will go get the green light to go ahead and proceed. Since we're here at the theater tonight, I don't know if you know or not, but the theater, I mentioned to you, is 51 years old. And the theater also, over the next several years, is going to embark on moving forward, meaning that eventually there will be actually, hopefully, another large facility here on this property, i.e. for the community to hold large gatherings, etc. And it could, like you said, could be really exciting for this community. But I suspect it'll all converge eventually in probably 5 to 10 years from now. This facility is going to have more community space. It'll be able to offer groups of maybe like a quote unquote a small convention, maybe 200 or 300 people. It's really hard here in this town to find space to accommodate really. Once you get over 100 plus, it's pretty much where we are tonight. And so kind of visualize maybe all this converging. In other words, this free corner thing is going to work. It's going to take many years. But at the same time, the theater is going to be expanding and it'll look different, i.e. this building next door. The museum, as you may know, is reinventing itself. They are building a whole new museum. They want more walls, they want more art to be displayed. So in other words, long term, I think this has a lot of potential, right? And then this community would have this street here, kind of part of an arts street, because the theater and the museum are trying to be collaborative. So when you think of it, that's how I like to think of it. I'm kind of the eternal optimist. But all my children were born here, and 2 of my 3 kids are coming back, and so are their friends. And I think long term, it has a lot of potential. Maybe not necessarily for us at our age, but I think for all those millennials, etc., that are coming back. And so I see this in 10 years from now. I think this is going to look a lot different, but different could be better, and I think it could be aesthetically pleasing. So that was my 5 cents.
I'm going to go quick here, just so I can give him the microphone. Does Vero Beach's community do tax incremental financing? Albert, do you know? Does anybody know? It's called a TIF. Do they use TIF here? This seems like a candidate for this, in that when your taxable income raises on a site for development, they take that increase in taxes, they give it to the developer. I'm not a TIF expert, and they use it to pay down the debt. So that's certainly a way to look at how they might be able to finance some of this stuff, but it has to be a TIF district. I don't know if you know anything about this, but it has to be a TIF district, it has to be legislated, blah, blah, blah. But if they've used it before, that is a vehicle for possibly trying to pay for part of this. But the other thing that people have brought up is you really need to know what the public, other than the land, what the public participation is here long term. So that's it.
Thank you.
Gabrielle, you mentioned that had been, an appraisal had been done prior. Do you know when that was done?
I just read it in one of those.
Ken, do you know, when, was there appraisal?
I can't hear it.
Was there an appraisal done on this property?
A while ago.
Yeah, I only saw it one time in readings of stuff, and obviously it sounds really low, right?
Yes. So that would be important for the city to consider doing another appraisal, which wouldn't be a large expense. And then, I'm not sure about the tip. That's an excellent point. Yeah, very good point.
I can't understand what she's
Oh, I don't know that everyone may not know that this land that this theater sits on and the land that the art museum sits on is leased from the city. The city owns it. So.
It's city owned. Oh, okay, here it comes. 20 more steps, all right.
You're like Vanna White. In saying that the museum and the theater are all gonna change and be a convention type center, is there a height limit that's going to be proposed, or are we gonna see high rises go up because of the population explosion?
I'm gonna hand you the microphone. Ken, I keep referring to Ken. Ken used to be on the city council, so he has some history. I know the height limit is only 50 feet in River
How can
County.
you expand if you still have the same footprint? You can only go up.
You can only go up and
Or
only
turn
about
off
50
trees.
feet. Yeah, it's
No more than-
yeah, 50 feet. That's the height limit. That's why I think Bureau is so unique. So my mother-in-law was born here 86 years ago, so she has a lot of good stories, and she said as soon as the locals saw the village spires go up, they were up in arms, and as soon as they saw the village spires go up, they galloped downtown and put a height limit here in the county, and city, thank you, Ken.
It's in the chart.
It's in the charter. Do you have anything else to say to correct me, so I don't get in trouble here? Is that part of it? You're helping me. So the village spires is what caused the height limit to only go to 50 feet. And then they put in all these nice provisions, you had to have so many trees per property, et cetera, et cetera. And this is a city-owned property. How many oak trees are on this property, like 90 or something?
No, I think there's 156, and I just wanna say the theater has no interest in being a high-rise residential.
Yeah.
We are an arts and cultural facility, and if
Repeat her
it's not
question.
welcoming warm and it isn't part of the community, then we don't do it.
Yeah, so it's, so that's it, 50 feet, so that's probably a nice way to say no more than three stories. And and I don't know ultimately how this is going to look, but just so you know that things are moving forward, whether it's a museum or a theater, the community has to be progressive and incrementally move forward, although it's at the pace of turtles sometimes.
So I love the question about taxable income. I don't know how many people have been to Savannah, but there's a development there called.
Can you hold the mic a little better, Barbara?
So I don't know how many people here near been to Savannah, but there's a very large project there that in many ways, it's on the water, it's comparable. It's called Plant Riverside. And there are 3 hotels, restaurants, art galleries, shops, outside space, lovely. And the taxable revenue to the city is $24 million. And it might be higher now, but it's a huge source of income, which of course it would be here. For example, it costs the city, the budget of the city is 30 million, so, I mean, 24 million is an interesting number. But anyway, it would be a huge source of revenue, unless they screw it up. That should not happen.
Positive, this is all good.
Yes, just a question on the involvement of the next generation. What efforts have been made to get some of the younger folks in the community involved?
You know, I know the answer to that. My oldest is 33, and when this started in 2019, the committee was the Committee of the Nearly Dead. So, to be brutally honest. Well, it gotta be, that's that, and so the young people that came back, they said, couldn't we have a steering committee made up of young people? Yes. And so they put a steering together of committee, to kind of complement the more mature, steering committee. And so it was local kids that were born and raised here by and large, they were all in their 20s and 30s. And they had their own steering committee, and they actually gave a lot of good feedback, and they gave presentations throughout town, and were really engaged because they could see this long term, you know, as you know, having a lot of a good fit for the community.
And why aren't they here tonight?
I'm sorry.
These committees with young people. Why aren't they here for these meetings?
I have a comment on that. The young people are really, really hard to reach. I mean, we work very hard. We've isolated them. We have all their emails, not all of them, but a good percentage of them. But they're busy. They're working. They're raising families. You know, are they that civically engaged? I mean, look at the number of people who come out for a regular elections. You only have maybe 3,300 people come out to vote. It's a broad problem. It's not just a young problem. But the young people did come out, and I think one of the reasons people aren't coming out for this particular meeting in any case, because I think that the process was compromised last time. People are just leaving it to the process. People trust in the process. We've got the committees. The selection committee is very well balanced. There are guardrails put on the process, and you know, you should go to those meetings and watch them. But I think that I think it was the attorney who said it. You know, let's measure twice and cut once, because they had to disqualify one of the developers last time. So they're to be very, very careful about the process. And in terms of the young people being represented, there is one person on the selection committee called Vicki Gould, who was the head of the community aspect of the steering committee, and she worked closely with younger people. So she will be taking into consideration what all of those people wanted. Everyone in the community, not just the young people, but obviously young people really did have a lot to do with shaping it. So I wanted to one of the other concerns. Did you have a question? Bearable? Maybe you have, okay. There's the other one.
I just wanted to make a comment. In the last proposal, I thought one of the bidders specifically mentioned the mangroves on the river and making a concerted effort to build and develop with the environment and wildlife in mind. And I just wanted to say that I thought that was important.
Yes.
And I believe that type of consideration should be kept in the forefront.
Did you understand?
If my kids were here, they'd give you a high five. Absolutely.
I have a huge concern about the traffic. The traffic now on Indian River Boulevard, I think is worse than ever. It's hard to get anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how many employees are going to be working on this site. Where are they gonna park? Right now, parking is an issue for employees here on the island, and how long you're allowed to park at any particular place.
I'm quite sure that both developers are taking that matter seriously into consideration, because it's been something that's talked about since day one.
I'd sure like to know what it is, though, if we get this huge development there, and then all the traffic is pouring out onto Indian River Boulevard.
You know, I'm sure there will be some traffic. They'll have to really look at that and re-engineer that, and I know that Peter Polk was, you know, he could have spoken about that, and he will speak about that. Once this process is over, those kinds of questions can be addressed more immediately, but just now, as the selection process is underway, he doesn't want to talk.
So in other words, he's willing to come back.
Oh yes, once the selection is made, but we, you know, what we do is we give everybody a chance to give their input, and that's what we're doing tonight, so that everyone can hear it and take it into consideration. One of the things that is there any more questions? I want to ask a question. Okay.
Oh, slacking at my job here.
Slacker.
Hello, Harvey.
You're ghosting me, but is this working? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
I was on the city planning and zoning commissioner board for 19 years, and now I've been on the county planning and zoning commission for 3 years. So I've got some background in this stuff, and I think there's some misinformation going around. First of all, with all respect, the height limit in 95% of the city is 35 feet, plus what they call 15 feet of agricultural and architectural embellishment. That means like the walls or structures to hide rooftop air conditioning and things like that. There are a couple districts too, I believe, the industrial district and the downtown district are both 50 feet plus 15 feet. I personally think that if someone were to challenge the height limit at the power plant, if in fact it's going to be either reused or started from scratch, I think there could be some challenges to limit that to 35 feet plus. Okay. In regard to the three corners, that was a terrible name that Larry Reisman, Larry's not here, I don't think, the Press Journal came up with. One of the two things I think that I met with Andreas Goini very early on, and one of the two things we agreed on was that we need a new name sooner than later, and that was, 6 years ago? And there hasn't been any movement at all towards a new name, and the latest thing I've heard from the city is they're going to let the developer at least participate in the new name. But the thing is, one of the things was that Dwayne said, we need to ignore or sell off the third corner, or really half the corner, because a good half of it now is where they moved the substation from the electrical plant. And then the other thing we agreed on was the need for, that was the need for the new name. I can't think of the other thing we agreed on, there's very few. As an aside, I don't think very many of us in this room will be alive when this thing opens for business. So at most there were 3 corners, but the third corner was cast off. He suggested it be sold. And the mention of the 4th corner is kind of erroneous because has been for 20, 30 years. The Citrus Financial Center is privately owned. So the fact that it's city-owned is not true, and nobody ever considered calling it 4 corners, or even, I've never heard it called the 4th corner. And so, you know, I voted against the referendum because what it allowed was the developer and 3 drunken sailor councilmen to do whatever they want. And I don't think that's right. I hope they go ahead and, once the selection's made, open up, as someone suggested, part of the land, and there's a safety problem with the construction and things like that. But it's gotta be done in stages. And gotta take advantage of the low-hanging fruit. And I'll probably come up with something else.
Hello.
There you go.
There was some talk earlier about financial questions, and I wanted to just alert us to some history, recent history, about which causes me to question the financial competence of the process participants. 2.5 years ago, the estimated cost to move the sewage treatment plant was $82 million.
Switch off microphone. Here you go.
It was still $82 million. A year later, it had gone up to $120 million, the estimate. 6 months later, it was up to $138 million. And less than a year after that, most recently, is up to $179 million. And now what's projected among people that kind of are in the know is it will likely be over $250 million. You take a look at the debt service costs that are involved in that. And I wonder, you know, nobody seems to be, not even Larry Reisman has been talking about what the hell happened, but I think we should all be thinking about that because it's the same gang that's involved in this, and maybe not directly, but I'm not sure that we have the wherewithal in terms of financial competency to handle something of this size. And to the gentleman that spoke before, maybe we ought to be nibbling rather than gulping at this point. And there's a lot of things we could do that don't have to be all in one big fell swoop. I think Savannah was part of that too. I think Savannah didn't gobble it in one bite. I think they did it incrementally as well. At least the people I know Savannah feel that's what happened. So just an alert, just a red alert in my mind to the fact that I'm not sure, I didn't even hear any lessons learned about what happened last time. We had a blue ribbon selection committee from the CVs that I read. And then at the 11th hour, the council jumped in and interfered, and the rest is history. And I just wondered, were there any lessons learned in how that process happened? And are we gonna make sure that we're cautionary to the same thing happening again? In the meantime, let's figure out how we can have a mayor here for more than 2 years. I mean, what's the governance process long-term of the city of Vero Beach? Because I don't think what we have today is able to take on things of this size. So I ask you humbly to consider that I don't live in Vero, but I feel like I'm part of Vero. I live in Indian River Shores, and I'm on the finance committee there, and we seem to be a little more conservative in terms of how we're looking at things. So, bless you all, and I pray that I'm pretty old, but I hope I live long enough for my grandchildren to see this happen. Thanks.
Maybe there won't be any more property taxes.
Right. Come on.
One of the things that we've been hearing a lot is people are concerned about the competition that Three Corners might pose for downtown. And I would really like to hear from Morgan Reynolds, if you're willing to speak as head of Main Street, if you have some comments on that.
Thank you. So I'm not fully I'm the president of the board for whatever that's worth, but my take on it is that a community is a sum of its parts, and the more good parts in Vero that we have, the better our community is going to be overall. So I don't see Three Corners as competition. I see it as, one area of Vero that really needs some love and some sprucing up. Downtown, I think, also needs love and sprucing up.
Absolutely.
So, and right now downtown is, my project, and I'm glad that other very competent people are working towards Three Corners, and I'm glad that Irina continues to kind of champion the conversation so that it doesn't lose momentum. And I will also say that in my short time working with Main Street and downtown, I keep hearing that there's just not money for upkeep. And so I would hope that again, I'm not the expert, and many people here know better than me, but I would hope that having this new development would add to the tax revenue so that there would be better upkeep overall for our entire community. So that's what I'm hoping to see. And again, it's a long time down the road from now, but hopefully we'll get there eventually.
Thank you. Do we have more questions? I mean, if you want to stay, we can wrap it up. Does Ritu still have more questions?
Yeah, I just actually want to add to what Morgan said. She's only 18, so she has her whole life ahead of her. You look like a baby, and I'm only teasing you. So from a young person's, yes, and from a young person's standpoint, and now from an older lady's standpoint, because I was young once too. We have, yeah, Lori, right? We were young ones too, yeah. We have so many houses. I was actually driving along 58th Avenue today, and there's another area being cleared. There's going to be a lot more developed in terms of houses and businesses. So the more people that move in, the more that we're going to need different areas for entertainment. And how many people like to eat at the same restaurant? I don't know about all of you, but my husband and I have a restaurant rotation. And so we're beachside, we're downtown, we're in Sebastian, we're in different places. So if they do something very unique with the Three Corners, it will actually enhance Vero Beach overall, and people will still go to downtown, Miracle Mile, and beachside.
I have a question. Is there more than just the two developers right now, or it's just only the two?
Anyone else?
You heard the answer, there are only two.
Do people have a preference?
I can't seem to get anyone to say so.
Nobody's ready.
A show of hands.
Yeah, kind of be fun to see.
Fun to see an image of what.
Yeah. You see, that's why, that's one of the reasons, Barbara, you asked, how come nobody's talking about this, is because no one's really explained the difference between the two proposals. And they're very complex, and there are hundreds of pages to read, so it's very difficult for the community to pick a favorite, right? Which is why I encourage everyone to go to the meeting on March 4th, that's a public meeting. You'll start to see, the elements of each come to the surface. And, I love the meeting schedule. You should go to every meeting if you really want to, have your input heard. I think, Bearable just made a good point. Did everyone have the link to the decks? I've sent it out in all of my emails many times. Oh, no, yes, I put links to both proposals, a number of times. I can send them out again, but they're a lot to read. It's quite a lot to.
Yes, they have pictures.
They have pictures. I thought, right, as I said, I put the proposals out there and the visuals are there, but it's also hard to have a discussion just on aesthetics alone. But we still wanted to have a forum, right, because we're still in preliminary stages. You're gonna have this meeting on March 4th, another week of March 24th, to the week of March 24th, and to the week of the 22nd. But all of them are closed to public comment up until the end. So we just wanted to have this meeting so that if you have concerns, we've already been asking for favorites. If anybody has a favorite, we're kind of curious. But we just mostly wanted to use this as an opportunity to talk about concerns.
I'm sorry, I have to apologize, I haven't really looked at so much detail of both, developers. But one of them looks obviously like it's pretty much a glass structure, and the other one looked like they had more buildings. So there's two different characters going on there. Now, what's in those, we don't know. It's not up to us, I guess. No, it's not up to people. Yeah.
Well, Irina is gonna send out, the link again, and in one of them, she just said, and used the word here in blue, and you clicked on here, and they have a actually well done, presentation, and their artistic, renderings of how they think, they'd like for it to look.
Tuesday, March 4th is your opportunity to really start to see what's taking shape. Yes, Barbara?
The two proposals look very different. If you look at the covering page, they're very clearly defined, and inside the package, there's a lot of photographs of what the interior and the exterior open space would look like. Also, both of them are addressing means of getting there, and part of something that's very attractive, and I'm reminded of Maribel's comment, is that boat traffic going across from Riverside Park, for example, which would be a fun ingredient. Is that interesting to people? I think so. Yes, yeah, just like in Savannah, Plant Riverside. You can go from either side back and forth by boat, a regularly scheduled,
I'm hoping somebody will be entrepreneurial enough to then maybe do boat rides. That's what you're saying, from the development of quote unquote three corners to Riverside. There you go, yeah. That'd be fun.
Are there any more questions, or?
Some more nuggets of wisdom before we.
We were talking about the name before, and calling the sewer plant anything except the sewer plant is like putting lipstick on a pig. But that wasn't what I wanted to say. Asking about the two proposals, I haven't seen any detail on it either, but I do think it's significant that the one that was 500 plus million to start is now 250 or so, and the one that was the low ball and was the one that was originally chosen went up from 180 million to again mid 200 millions. So I think that's significant, and so the one that came down either had too much fat or something in it, and the one that was lowball realized that and got more real. So, okay.
I'm sorry, there were guidelines that had to be followed in terms of pricing out elements of the project, so that they were apples compared to apples, not apples compared to oranges. And that made a very big difference. Obviously, there was some change in the design too, which reduced or increased the cost, but it was really equalizing the price elements, which I thought was excellent.
Very strict, and they changed the criteria for judging too. I don't know if anybody cares about the criteria. I've sent it out in previous emails, but the criteria is pretty strict. I can read it now if anybody cares, but we're giving, you're welcome to, we usually close at 7, but, if you're ready to go and wrap it up, we can wrap it up. If you have any more questions, send them my way, and thank you all for coming out.
Thank you so much.
Cincinnati is home.